Hey dudes, what's up? I feel bad because I know that recently I've been taking a lot of breaks and then uploading it consistently for a couple weeks and then taking another break, and then it kind of like is a cycle, like I think like 3 times now. And I just want to say I'm sorry for that. I get a lot of DMs from you guys who are looking forward to my next videos and to reading more stories, and I feel really bad. I just think I've been going through a lot recently. I just think it's really taken a toll on my filming and editing. If you guys follow me on Twitch, I am a lot more consistent over there. I'm sure some people wonder why I'm more active on Twitch than I am on YouTube, and I think just like with mental health wise and stuff like that, it's just so much easier to get fully ready like I am right now and then just press like a go live button and sit there and like interact with people than it is to plan out something, film it, edit it, upload it, make the thumbnail. You know, it's just a lot more steps for YouTube, and I don't think I've really had the motivation, and I feel honestly horrible about that because like while I was gone we did hit 30,000 subscribers, which is a crazy number. I still can't wrap my head around it, if I'm being totally honest. Thank you guys so much for 30,000 subscribers. I never ever expected to ever get 1,000. Like, I'm sitting here and I feel like I still just don't understand like 30,000 subscribers. Like, that's so many. That is so many. And if you guys have an idea of something special that I can do for 30,000, please let me know. Depending on what it is, I don't know how soon I could get it out. If it's something that I would need to like go somewhere, it would probably be a while. I really want to do something special for you guys, and if that's reading stories for an hour, like I'll read stories for an hour or whatever. I just want to say thank you so much for 30,000 subscribers. That is freaking crazy. And I know that this intro is getting a little bit long, but I just wanted to explain where I've been, and also thank you guys for 30K. That's so crazy. Thank you. Like, all of you guys just, that's so crazy. Thank you. I do just want to say that if you are interested in following me on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, Friday, I will always be live on Twitch at 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's a lot of fun over there. I know that a lot of you guys aren't going to be interested in that, and that's totally cool, but I've had so many of you guys who have started at my YouTube come over to Twitch, and we've all just become this like little family. Everything over there just means a lot to me. I know that a lot of you guys probably aren't interested in video games, but occasionally I will do other things on Twitch like tarot streams. So like if you came to watch a tarot stream, I could read your tarot card if you wanted that. Sometimes we do scary story nights. A lot of the times we play horror games. There are a lot of horror and scary aspects on Twitch. I just wanted to throw that out there as an option. I would love to have you guys. Like I said, everyone who's come over from YouTube is just absolutely so amazing, and I love them all. So if you want to be a part of that, my link will be in the description. It's also the same name as here, Ashparanormalstories. Sorry for rambling. I understand that long intros aren't everybody's favorites, but I've been gone for so long that I just felt like I needed to update you guys. I am gonna get into the stories now. So I'm gonna be reading more of you guys' stories that you guys have sent me, your paranormal stories you guys have sent me to my email, and I'm really excited because I know this is your favorite video that I do, and I'm just excited to tell more of your stories. So I have some picked out, and I guess we'll just get into the first one now. So this first story comes from Charlie, and it's a bit on the long side, so I will just get into it. So they say, "Hi Ash. I believe you may be interested in some of my spooky experiences. After coming across your channel on YouTube, it reminded me of all the weird things I've experienced in my life that I haven't forgot about as such, but had to choose not to think about, because many of those things still can't really be explained. We definitely live in a supernatural world. I can share with you as many of my experiences as you'd like, but I believe my shadow people experience has by far been the most terrifying for me. I have witnessed an up-close UFO sighting and personally experienced Kabbalistic magic to exorcise demon attachments. If you'd like more on those, let me know. Please, oh my god, I was actually earlier today just talking about UFO sightings and how much they freak me out. So I would love to hear your UFO alien story, please, and the magic one, that sounds interesting. Please send those in if you feel comfortable. I would love to hear about them. Okay, here we go. Around 4 years ago, I began having shadow people visitations during the night that lasted around 18 months of my life, sporadically. When they first began, I had never heard of shadow people. So at first, I really didn't feel much fear when I woke up, and just put it down to fear creating my imagination to think up these things that I was seeing. My first experience happened not long after I moved into a new house with my then boyfriend and cat. My boyfriend was going through his firearms training, so only stayed at home on the weekends, which meant I was often home alone. My cat would sleep beside me in bed, but on my partner's side when he wasn't home. On the night of my first experience, I remember going to bed as usual, and during my slumber, I suddenly woke with the instinct to open my eyes and look down towards the end of the bed where I caught a glimpse of a shadowy figure crawling towards me along the side of the bed, but as it got closer, it dispersed into a misty shadow and totally vanished. Almost like how clouds shift when you watch them. Only this was much quicker. I got a fright at the time, but in this instance, I just thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. So I quickly checked to see where my cat was, and as I suspected, she was on the other side of the bed, curled up sleeping, unaware of anything being in the room. I instantly fell back to sleep, mostly unalarmed. Several nights passed where nothing happened again, or at least not to my memory. I hadn't mentioned it to my boyfriend because I didn't think it was that big of a deal. One morning, after what I believed to be a good night's sleep, my partner told me I woke up screaming in the night. I did not recall my screams, but he said I sounded terrified, and I told him something was in the room. This started happening on a more regular basis, and I began having more visitations of a black figure in my room, usually closer to my bed each time. I just got chills. The same thing would happen every time. I'd wake up, aware of something being near me, see the figure, and scream a terrified scream. It would disperse, and I'd go straight back to sleep again, as if nothing happened. Strange reaction. I remember one night my sister and I took a business trip to Birmingham, England, and stayed in a hotel. We each had our own single bed. Mine was by the window, and I had a clear view of the room door from where I lay. My sister's bed was parallel to mine, but fully against the wall with a view out the window, but hidden from the room door. We turned out the lights and said goodnight. I usually drift off to sleep fairly quickly, and this night was no different, except I couldn't have been asleep for too long when I suddenly sat bolt upright in the bed, shouting for my boyfriend, then announcing something was in the room after clearly seeing a black shadow figure standing at the room door facing my direction. I instantly flicked on the bedside light, and the shadow figure was gone. Satisfied that he'd left, I lay back down, turned off the light, and went straight back to sleep again. My sister was only dozing off when I gave her the fright of her life. She then couldn't sleep for about an hour from wondering what the hell was in the room. In the morning, I had completely forgotten about what had happened until she reminded me. We actually had a giggle about it. I don't think that even at this point I was taking this stuff seriously. The truth is, though, the following morning of a visitation, I wouldn't even consider dwelling on it or talking about it. I just accepted that something unusual had happened, and I didn't live in fear of it. In fact, my sister and I would often laugh at my stories. The last visitation I had was actually the most terrifying. At this point, my boyfriend and I had split up, and I'd moved back to my mom's for a while. One of my younger sisters lived there too. Since the move back, I had more regular visits, and my sister would often come running into my room to check if I was all right, because I was waking up in the night, screaming in terror, and my sister thought I was being attacked. I recall my screams extremely well, and I have never screamed like this in waking life ever. I've never been terrified in waking life either. Before I continue, there are some things I want to point out about my experiences in totality. One time, I noticed that I became aware of these beings in my room when I was asleep. I could just sense them, and could, to an extent, control when to open my eyes to look at them. I always opened them. I noticed that with each visitation, except from the time in Birmingham, the being was getting closer and closer to me every time, and larger and more solid. Much later, I also noticed there was a sound associated with them too. I had an awareness at first, and then a sound would follow. I still don't know to this day which would wake me first, the awareness of a presence or the sound. I never saw facial features, no eyes, just a solid figure. It was definitely masculine in energy every time. The being looked solid, so I couldn't see through it until it began to disperse. It only dispersed if I reacted to it. I knew it was solid because I couldn't see the objects of my room behind where he stood. It didn't always move towards me when I saw it. Often it would be still and lurking. I felt terror in its presence and always screamed, but as soon as it left, it was like it was never there. Whenever I was alerted to their presence, it was always like I hadn't been sleeping at all. I was wide awake and fully alert, and it was never as if I had woken up from a nightmare. Not ever. I do not recall ever having a nightmare before being woke by these beings. The moment was always very sudden. So my last visitation. I was sleeping as normal again and suddenly woke, keeping my eyes still closed, and was fully aware of a presence in my room. By this point, I was so used to the reactions in my body of knowing when I was being visited. Ew, that's a really good way to phrase it, but that really freaks me out. I knew exactly what was happening. Before I even opened my eyes, I was, for the first time, with clarity, aware of a high-frequency electricity sound, like high-pitched buzzing. In this moment, I recall having heard it in earlier experiences of visitations, but just hadn't remembered before. This time, though, it was particularly loud and high-pitched. When I opened my eyes, the shadow being was the closest it had ever been to me before. It was hovering directly over me. He was so close that I swiped at him as I screamed, the most terrified scream. That sound left my body uncontrollably. I swung across to my bedside lamp and switched it on, and boom, the bulb had blown. Oh my god, I've got chills. I've got really, really bad chills. My heart was pounding. My sister yet again came running into the room. Even my cat got a fright and came straight to give me kisses. This particular time had truly scared me. This time, though, I couldn't as easily fall back to sleep. I was truly terrified. For weeks after, I was too scared to go to sleep and would often sleep with a nightlight on. The strangest and most concrete thing about this occasion was the next morning. I changed the bulb and my lamp still wouldn't work. It turned out that the fuse had actually been blown. I know for sure that these shadow creatures were no figment of my imagination or a part of my dream world. This was real, supernatural strangeness. At the time of my experiences, I couldn't find any information about shadow people online or in books. It wasn't until maybe around 3 years ago when I began searching again online and I found more about shadow beings and other people's experiences. We were all calling them shadow people. I know some people claim to see shadow people wearing hats or having red eyes, but this is not something I have experienced, and I hope that I don't. I also discovered that these beings are linked with sleep paralysis, and thankfully I have never experienced this either. I always put this down to being aware of the shadow person before it got close enough to sit on my chest, but I don't actually know for sure. What I do know for sure is how to get rid of them. After a few weeks of terrifying waking screams reported to me by my sister, but unremembered by me, I went into a lucid dream state. In this dream, I held my sister's hand, and together we sang high vibrational songs. Happy, uplifting songs, although I don't recall exactly which. But in this dream, we basically defeated the shadow being. We disintegrated it, and gladly I have never been visited since. What I know of energy is that you can't fight or defeat scary, negative things with a mirror of its own energy. We have to work with the opposing energies such as joy, love, and fearlessness. The conclusion I came to from their visits and through my research is that they were using my fear and terror as food. Almost like that's all they really wanted from me, to feed off my sudden feeling of horror energy. I'd love to know what you make of all this and how it compares to the other stories you received on the subject. I know this is a long one. I tried to keep it short, but kept all the essential details in. I hope this finds you well, and thanks for your time, Charlie. Charlie! Oh my god! Holy crap! Your ending paragraph about defeating shadow people with love and light and fearlessness is 100% true. So I'm really glad that you did your research and were able to find that out for yourself, because that is 100% the way to get them to go away. Any kind of fear or negative feeling or terror, anything that you are feeling that is negative is going to make them feed off of that. Replacing it with light or thinking of happy things, singing happy songs, raising your vibration is the only thing that is going to help you protect against them. Like I said, I'm really, really glad that you figured that out, but I'm so sorry it took you so long to be able to figure that out, because having to go through all of those experiences and seeing something like almost every night, like you said, crawling towards you or standing next to you or even like lurking by your door sounds absolutely freaking terrifying, and I can't imagine what I would do to wake up in the middle of the night and either see something hovering over me or even in the corner of my room. I don't think I would ever sleep again, and that's not even me trying to be funny. I'm like 100% serious. So the fact that you could even go back to bed after having that happen amazes me. Don't apologize for the length. That was actually an amazing story, amazing experience that ended very happily. I'm so glad you haven't been visited since. But I would love, 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 love to hear about your UFO experience and that magic. I've never heard of that type of magic that you stated, so that would be awesome if you could send those to me, because I'm sure everybody else would like to hear about them too. And so yeah, thank you so much for sending that in, Charlie. I really, really enjoyed reading it. This second story comes from Alyssa, and it's titled Ghost Boy. Since I could remember, I have had paranormal experiences, and my father's house is terrifying to say the least. This happened when I was about 22, and I live in Canada, which is important to note. So one night, me, my cousin, and our friend decided to drink, and eventually go to the bar, but before the night's activities began, my cousin and I walked to her house, which was 3 houses down from mine, and my friend was about 6 to 7 houses up. I went to get a cardigan I was going to borrow, and as we were walking back, it started to thunder. My friend had already left her house a few minutes before and made it to my front steps and got into my house about a minute before we got into the house. I locked the door behind me. About an hour went on and we were in the kitchen playing cards, and I kept hearing something down the hallway, movements and walking. I was confused, but they didn't seem to be bothered. Finally, I asked them, "Do you guys hear that? Did you bring someone else here?" My friend looked at me and she's like, "It's probably your brother. I saw him walking in the bathroom when I first walked into the house." I said, "Hey Dee," but he didn't say anything. He just walked into the bathroom. I instantly got a chill and went down into the hallway to look to my brother's room. Nothing. I came back out and asked her if she was sure she had seen him, and she said she had seen the back of a boy who she thought was my brother. They didn't know I was home alone for the weekend. My brother and father had left that day to Maine, in the USA. When I told them that, my friend's face went pale, and we all booked it out of the house. She never came over for a long time after that. This wasn't the first or last time someone had seen a ghost boy in my house. If she thought it was your brother, I wonder if it was something looking like your brother or if it was just a boy and she assumed it was your brother, you know? But either way, that is super interesting that she saw like a full apparition like that, like with colors and everything. Like that's really, really cool. Very interesting. I wonder what happened in your house to make this little boy walk around and stuff. So this next story I'm going to be reading, they want their name to remain anonymous, so I will just be getting into their story. Hi Ash or Ashley. You guys can call me either Ash, Ashley. I love your videos. I always listen to them at work while I'm cleaning or doing my thing. Anyways, I wanted to tell you a bittersweet story, not scary at all, just warm. But it is paranormal. So about 7 to 8 years ago, my cousin Desi and her 3 kids had passed away in a car accident in Texas. They had hit a huge oak tree because my cousin had fallen asleep at the wheel. This is what I was told. Just to clarify, I was never close to them. I don't think I had ever met them, but it did hurt to see my mom mourn over their passing because she had such a close relationship with her oldest niece. Anywho, about a year after I went to go visit family in Texas with my mom and my younger brother, we stayed at my grandma's house where my cousin Desi and her kids always visited and stayed the night very frequently. So one of the mornings staying at my grandma's house, my mom and brother had woken up before me to get up and eat breakfast. But I wanted to stay in bed, being the lazy person I am. While I was laying down, I had my blanket over my head and my back facing the door, face to the wall. And you know how you're like asleep, but then awake, like still aware of your surroundings, but still asleep? Well, I was that while laying in bed. Then I heard the doorknob shake and rattle. Then the door had opened and closed as if someone came into the room. My head was still under the blanket, and I was turned to the wall, thinking it was my little brother. Then I heard one of the toys that the 3 boys used to play with make a sound, and then a little toy car was thrown across the room. I'm still thinking it was my brother. Then I felt the end of my bed sink in like someone's little butt had sat down. I told it to leave me alone and to go away, still thinking it was my brother, and then it went away. I got up about 10 minutes after because I didn't hear the door open or close for my brother to leave. I kept that experience to myself the whole trip. I was too scared to tell my mom, and I questioned my own sanity as well. Until my cousin Elle had a photo of 4 orbs in front of my grandma's house. My mom was explaining to me that she believed it was my cousins watching over us. A little creepy, right? I hope you liked my story. I have plenty more good ones, and very creepy ones if you'd like to hear them. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to read this, and I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for sending that. That's very sweet that they're still around. It is a little bit creepy to have like things like physical objects being moved or played with or thrown even, but it definitely is very sweet, like you said. Like the fact that they're still around even now after 7 to 8 years, I just think that's really cool. So thank you so much for sharing, and of course I'd like to hear more stories if you're willing to share them. This next story comes from Gabrielle, and it's titled The Girl in the Orchard. This is a story that isn't mine, but my mom's. My mom had a lot of brothers and sisters, 7. Oh my goodness, that's a lot of brothers and sisters. So they were very poor. When my mom was probably 11 or 12, they moved into this very old house. I think she told me over 100 years old, which was located next to an orchard. Most of her siblings had already left the house, so my mom only lived with her father, mother, and younger sister. Every day, her younger sister would go play in the orchard. It's normal for a child to go explore their home, but every day at dinner, the younger sister would tell about her adventures with Jamie. She explained that Jamie had old clothes and said she lived in the orchard. Her family all thought it was an imaginary friend and nothing to worry about. Except when she brought Jamie home, the family dog would bark right next to the younger sister. And she would reply, "Shush, that's just Jamie." They later found out that there used to be a house that burned down in the orchard. I hadn't got my aunt's perspective on Jamie, but let me know if you want to hear hers when I do. Of course, I would love to hear your aunt's perspective. That would be so cool. That experience sounds like it would be straight out of like a horror movie or something that like takes a twist and like, it's like a ghost girl, but that's so cool. Really, really sad that the house burnt down and that happened with the little girl, but that is so cool that like she was able to see her. Kids are so sensitive to the paranormal, and I know I've said that a lot on my channel, but they really, really are. And so when you see a little kid looking at something or saying like, hey, this is this or this is that, usually they're like onto something. And it's so cool to hear about stories where they have an imaginary friend and then later you find out that they might not really be imaginary. It's just really, really fascinating how stuff like that happens. So thank you so much, and I would absolutely love to hear your aunt's perspective on her imaginary friend if you ever get it. So I think this is probably going to be the last story that I read. I'll read through it and then we can judge if I'm going to read another story, but it is getting kind of late, so this will probably be the last story. So this story comes from Lex, which I love the name Lex, by the way. That's such a cool name. It's titled The Little Girl Named Abby. She says, "Hi Ash, my name is Lex. I have many paranormal stories I would love to share with you, except the one I will tell you today is one that my whole family has dealt with. My mom, sister, and I all see the paranormal. Growing up, when we lived at our old place, my older sister would see a little girl in her closet staring at her. Ew. This happened for years. Once we moved, my sister thought this little girl would stay at our old place, but instead, she followed us. My sister, who is much older now, started communicating with this spirit. She learned her name is Abby. She was around 8 to 9 years old, and she was from the pioneer time. Abby had told my sister her family passed away in a house fire. I didn't know this information since I myself was only young, 8 at the time. But soon I started seeing this little girl and hearing her, or see her quickly and just make out her white dress and brown hair. Of course, over the years, everyone in my household knew who Abby was. As soon as things would go missing, we knew it was her playing games with us, and we would kindly ask her to put it back or put it on our beds, and usually a day or so would go by before we would find that missing item on our beds. Growing up, I would always leave toys out for her, and even had woken up in the night to see her on my floor with the toys. But I soon realized that not only can I see/hear and communicate with spirits, but they can show me how they died. One afternoon, I was laying in bed when I smelt wood burning. I sat up from my bed and started really sniffing, trying to figure out what was on fire. Not long after, my vision was taken over, and I stood outside this wooden house being burned. There was smoke everywhere, and I could see the flames dancing. But suddenly it was gone and I was sitting in my room again. I immediately went to my sister and mom and told them what I had just seen, and without reacting, my sister told me that was probably Abby. She passed away in a house fire. Now, years later, I'm 20, and my sister is 26, and Abby is still around. Our stuff goes missing, and you hear the odd giggle here and there, but oddly, she's kind of a part of our family now. She's never showed me anything since that day, but a couple other spirits have. I'm willing to tell those stories if you would like. I think they want to be heard and have their story told. That's kind of cute that she hasn't ever done anything malicious, so that makes me really, really happy. But it's kind of cool that she's like become a little part of your family and isn't menacing or isn't threatening at all, so that's really good. It just sounds like she was probably bored. She just wanted like a friend or like a family. I mean, who knows what goes on like the other side, so it's like I'm sure that after a while they just get bored and they want someone to interact with. People want attention. People want attention from other people. And if you're sitting alone for years with no one to talk to, like in the spirit realm, like of course you're gonna want somebody to talk to. So it's kind of cute that she's able to like do things and like playfully mess with you. And I'm glad that it hasn't turned anything past that. So that's that's really good. That's really cool that you can see how people died too. That's like mediumship level, so that's really, really awesome. I would love to hear more about that if you're willing to share it. So thank you so much for sending me your story on Abby. That's so interesting, and I really like hearing stories about that isn't so scary but is still paranormal, you know? Like, it's nice to throw in some happy ones every once in a while. Okay, so it is getting really, really late. I know it's still very bright outside, but I have to go eat dinner kind of soon, so I'm gonna end here for today. I hope you guys enjoyed these stories. I wanted to thank everyone who has been sending me in your stories. I do read them. I might not read them all on camera, but I do read them all. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day to type up these stories and send them to me. It really, really means a lot. If you guys have any stories you guys want to send, you can send them to ashparanormalstories@gmail.com. I'll put it across the screen here and in the description. Just let me know if you want me to keep your name anonymous. If not, I will just assume that you're okay with your name being mentioned. No worries if you don't want your name mentioned, just let me know and I will do that for you. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I really apologize that I've been gone for so long, and this has happened a few times now. I'm really, really gonna try to get back on track with YouTube. As of right now, I feel like I probably shouldn't promise a day of upload. I talked about it on stream and somebody suggested just uploading like randomly, like she would rather have random uploads than forced a schedule, which it might be a little bit weird at first, but I'm hoping that I can kind of get my motivation back through doing that. I will still shoot for a video every week, but I just don't know what day I'll be uploading. Thank you guys so much for 30,000 subscribers. That is freaking crazy. I know I talked about that in the beginning, but I still can't wrap my head around that number and all of you guys being here. So thank you so much. Thank you for sticking around while I've been gone. Our little Twitch community is just such a loving, kind place. So if you guys are interested at all, it is twitch.tv/xashtaria. I'll put the link in the description, and I think that's really all I have to say. So thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody. She is so done with me. Look at her face. She's like, Mom, just put me down. Mom, put me down. Okay, I'm sorry.